Hey everybody, thanks for joining. I'm Major Hilliard, best-selling international author and co-founder of MH Estates Capital Partners. I'm going to do a quick call today and learn a little bit more about how fishing, hunting, and sportsmanship I've done through my life as a transition to allow us to be successful investing in mobile home parks. Again, through our four vertical system, allowing us to purchase and acquire value-add communities. We buy them as parks and we sell them as communities. I'm out in the wildlife today, so if you hear birds and seagulls, I'm over by the bay. Can't control that, so we're rolling a Rogue Edition outside again. But we're coming through trying a different setup, so love to hear your comments in it. Let me know what you like, don't like. Yeah, we're going to continue to prove. I really enjoy doing this and getting to know everybody that joins us each week. A little bit about my background and what I loved growing up. I grew up in the rural parts of Virginia outside of Richmond, Chesterfield County. But I did most of my growing up in a little county called Mecklenburg, a small red clay backwoods grassroots community. It was on Bugs Island Lake, which also is a lake that has multiple creeks that feed into it. And that was when I spent most of my childhood. So it was outdoors quite often, fishing all the time. I can't tell you how many times I messed up a bait caster. I could never figure them out. I always turn them into a bird's nest. I really like to flip, got really good at that. And as I got older, I went from fishing more into hunting, more for whitetail and turkey hunting. Turkey hunting is extremely fun. And then I got into archery for a little bit, but life just takes hold. And we really enjoy the fishing. Grew up with freshwater fishing, going more into saltwater, which is a whole different animal, but learning a different type of game and approaches based on the type of game you're going for, a really fun experience. Didn't really get into hunting myself until my late 20s after I got my hunting license. We weren't going big into that growing up, but plenty of great stories of chasing wild deer on the lake beds. We actually used a pontoon boat because the lakefront had a lot of fingers and a lot of peninsulas. And so it was easy to kind of cut off a peninsula with a group of us, be about 5 to 7. I would cut off a peninsula and three of us would walk out. So you're literally walking out and ambushing the deer to jump out of the beds. I've had a close call. I've actually had one hit me running out. It was wild times. It's fun, but you learn going into the unnamed, waiting for things to jump out, and you've got to react quick. And so having that skill set to move over, obviously with parks, we've been able to have all kind of issues come up. We just closed on the park this past Monday. Actually, 4 parks we closed on this Monday. And yeah, there are a few things that came up that we're dealing with right now, but staying really cool and calm under pressure, having that ability to have your finger on that trigger to pull the shot, but to have the discipline to hold it and make sure you know exactly what you're aiming at, really transition over to what we do today and allows us to keep that steady finger and not overreact. And the other great thing about hunting too, with turkey hunting, is that you're actually the bait. So in deer hunting, you're physically tracking the deer. You're looking for them continuously. You're looking for their ruts. You're looking for their mating, their beds, and you're looking for those signs to find them. However, in turkey hunting, it's the complete opposite. And this is what's fascinating, why I love it so much. You're actually the bait. You're the decoy. So you have to be extremely still because you're going against the best eyesight in the world. If you look at hawks and pelicans and seagulls, they can see fish swimming 5 feet underwater from 50, 80, 100 feet in the air. And you're trying to capture one of those and get it within 20 yards of you. Nothing's more heart pounding than sitting down full camo against a tree or behind a brush, and you're calling the male turkeys, the toms and the jakes over to you through a small call. And you can only move your hand just a tad to make that call, because if you move too much, see that eyesight, they can see any kind of movement and give you a dead giveaway. And so they're actually calling to you and you can hear them coming behind you and moving all around you. It's really a rush. It's such a good time. Highly recommend it to anybody. Go give it a shot. It's fun. When they flap, you're in a dead forest and it's so quiet. When they flap their wings, it sounds like an airplane or helicopter taking off. It's so loud. It's amazing creatures. I love them. So one big story that we like to talk about a lot is growing up, obviously on the lake. I caught a 37-inch striped bass. It became one of my prized possessions and catches early on in my childhood. And we actually caught a lead core line. When you go fishing, especially in freshwater, there's multiple different ways that you can use live bait, artificial bait, downriggers, outriggers, and lead core. Mostly what I grew up doing, and we didn't do a whole lot of live bait. We did a lot of trolling with downriggers. What downriggers are is about a 3 foot wide metal pole that's attached to a pulley with lead wire that has a 8 to 10 pound weight on the bottom of it. You connect your bait to it with a 20 to 34 yard lead, and you drop it down to the depth you want. So it holds your bait down at the depth, hold your bait down to where you want it at that level so you can go through that school of fish and hopefully grab one. So that was quite common. Another one that we used was lead core line, which was a weighted line. The line for the actual pole itself is weighted. And so it actually drops your bait for you. The problem is with the lead, you have to let out 4 times as much line as you normally would because it has to have enough draw for the bait to dig itself down. The bait will physically drive itself down with the weight of the line, but you have to have 4 times as much length. So when you're putting your bait 60 feet into the water, you're putting out 250, 300 yards of line. And so being 10 years old, rolling that up, it took me an hour and a half to pull that fish in. It was quite a story. I didn't want to quit. We stayed there all the way through dark until I got that fish in, and it was quite a fight. And I got me hooked. Once I got that, I wanted to get as much as the fishing and hunting as I could and never look back. But you having that never quit attitude and persevering and pushing through, knowing that the payoff's going to be there where most people would quit. That's really transitioned over to where we are with our mobile home parks, knowing that it's going to be tough in the beginning, but once it's done and you've got it in the boat, it's smooth sailing and set your own course. I know a big thing when it comes to any type of investing is that you're going to come across obstacles and unforeseen circumstances, and you got to be able to react. And that clearly relates to fishing and hunting 1000%, because there's nothing worse than when you're way out in the middle of nowhere with hunting. There's no cell service. You're away from your truck. You can't make a lot of noise because you're going to scare off your game. And you forgot something back in the truck, whether it be a call, a stand for your rifle or your shotgun, even extra ammo. You've got to improvise. And so being out there in the field, you have to think outside the box. So maybe for a post or 3 anchor post, you use your knee or your elbow on your knee, or you find a stick or 2 sticks with 2 crossovers and use that as a post. I've done that before. You're out there turkey hunting and you've got to cover them up with sticks, limbs, and trees and not move so your shoes are not a dead giveaway. Same thing with fishing. If you forget your bait, you've got to improvise and use a net and cast out and catch your bait. If you forget a hook, you've got to use a pop top. I've used that before, off of a soda can to catch your fish. You've got to be able to improvise because you can't go back because the trip's ruined. We come across that day in and day out with our investing, especially with mobile home parks. The deals we get are, and why we get such great deals off market. A lot of these parks that we buy are mismanaged. They have deferred maintenance, and there's a lot of value add or they need infill. So you've got to be able to take it as you go in. You're kind of walking in. We know what we're looking at, but when you walk in, there's always something unforeseen that you have to deal with. And we're ready for it. Through our over 12 years experience, going on 13 right now, we've seen just about everything, and we've learned how to react, stay calm, push through, find at least 2 or 3 resolutions, pick the best one that's going to be best helpful for the park in order to have a better experience for the tenants, which allows us to have higher rents, which gives us greater profitability, which is better returns for our investors. That's probably the biggest life lesson from either fishing and or hunting. That transitions over to allow us to really get our great returns, turn our communities around, or turn our parks around into beautiful, safe, fun, family-friendly communities that we're very proud of, to build a portfolio to make the best return for our investors. So again, it's become a real lifestyle for me. I grew up doing this majority of my life. In fact, nothing brings me more fun and joy now with my children to see them catch obviously little brim or sunfish or grouper. We're going to work our way up to striped bass and bluegills and other larger fish. But seeing that they did it themselves, that you're able to teach this skill, and just like with investing, I'm working with a group of investors now, and they're learning as we go along with our portfolio right now. Our partners understand why we buy, how we buy, and they love the progress, seeing the photos, the change in the communities that we have, and the real positive benefit that we're bringing to our tenants is something that everyone really looks forward to, and they get to learn with us on this journey as we're growing out our larger portfolios and the bigger portfolios to then sell off at compressed caps to get the best return. The other reason for it is to see my children learn that, but also they get away. It allows us to focus calm ourselves, re-energize, revitalize ourselves, and go back into the day fully recharged. When you're in investing mode or dealing with management of the day to day of these turnaround assets, it does take a lot out. You got to be able to separate yourself and have that ability to be calm under pressure. And so having that transition again over to our investment model, staying calm in our development and management of these mismanaged assets has allowed us to prevail where most people are knee jerk react. And so we've learned those lessons hard early on in my career and to where we are today. So again, as I stated earlier, it's all about with fishing and hunting is being able to adapt, calculate risk, and find patterns based on your current situation. Weather, biometric pressure, tides is a big thing in terms of fishing. A water temperature is a huge thing to fishing and the time of year. So all those little factors most people wouldn't think about. It's not as simple as just grab your bait and pole and go out, throw it in the water. If you don't have bait in the water, you're not going to catch the fish. But there's so many other little factors most people don't think about. And it's the same thing with our investing model. You think you just buy it, manage it, and sell it. However, there's so many other intricacies to increase the cash flow, to lower your operating expenses, to lower your burden on your income and have those tax deferred strategies that really make the difference between an amateur and a professional on this business because you're leaving a lot of money on the table. So you got to be able to adapt and learn, overcome, and use those techniques and strategies you used on earlier investments to compound itself over time. And obviously looking for patterns. So like within hunting and fishing, there's ruts, there's just different times of the year. The weather has a huge factor based on migrations of deer or turkey. You've got to know where to go. It's the same thing today. We're seeing a huge internal migration within the US from inner city to suburbia and from the Northeast to the South. And now we're seeing some from Florida moving out because of the return of workers back to actual offices. We're seeing an increased office space because 4 years ago, when COVID happened, everyone ran out of the office. Now they have to go back to the office because they realize it's a lot more profitable for companies to have their workers in-house versus virtual. They've seen the uptick in productivity. So now they're calling a lot of them to bring their workers back. The same thing with industrial. We were, until this current administration, we were outsourcing all of our manufacturing and industrial jobs. Where now they're being incentivized to come in through tariffs, other negotiations. So now we have a huge demand of industrial and manufacturer work jobs and blue collar jobs that we haven't had before. And now they need housing. So we're in areas, we target areas where there's extreme growth of industrial and manufacturing sector jobs. Well, they have their growth. Well, they have to live somewhere. And they're going to want, because they're blue collar, they're going to want the most affordable homes that they can find because, like everybody else, they want to be able to afford where they live. And a lot of these areas cannot sustain that. So if we're on the outskirts of where these developments are, we know where they're going. And we have our communities on the outskirts. We have such high demand. We really don't have to advertise. Same thing with healthcare and military. We're seeing a booming sector of that as well. So we focus on areas with colleges, universities, healthcare providers, healthcare centers, and the growth of industrial manufacturing areas and also military bases. With those four components combined, now we have a really good market for our target customer that looks to buy our homes, and we're going to be the most affordable option compared to apartments, especially stick-built homes. So we're the obvious choice for the smart and hardworking individual that wants to live in an affordable place for their family. So the demand we have is extremely high, and that's a model that we've been doing for quite a while. It's been paying off dividends for quite a long time. And obviously, you got to calculate your risk. So just like with hunting, you don't want to go out when there's a lightning storm. However, if you look at the forecast and foresee that it's going to taper off, you can go out a little bit early, but still have a little caution. Same thing with these communities that we buy. We always look at zoning regulations. We look at how the town and or county, the development plan, if they're pro or anti mobile home park development or current restrictions on operations. We look at this growing area, if it's more of an industrial area that's growing, having new job sectors coming in, or if they're shutting them down. If their population's decreasing, which is very rare, but it does happen, then obviously that's not an area you want to be in. We want to be an area in the path of progress. So we have strategic target markets throughout the Southeast, Southern Midwest that we strategically target, that we know is a fantastic place, a fantastic market for all the type of customers we deal with. And with the type of communities that we purchase, it's going to continue to appreciate over time, as well as have a lot of tax benefits for our partners. So again, we are recession proof, or well, can't say proof, but recession resistant asset with mobile home parks because again, during COVID, our rents actually increased. And so any sector of real estate, if you look at overall, manufactured home communities and mobile home parks have the highest retention of rental rates and rental payment methods during the 2008 housing crisis, as well as the COVID housing crisis, where a lot of people were just, eating their lunch because they could not evict and with the moratorium and we're just not able to get rents in because of the workforce. So again, the workforce and the tenants that live within our communities, they're essential workers. They are the truck drivers, healthcare providers, nurses, dental assistants. They are stocking the grocery stores, servicing all the hospitality areas. They're teachers. They are essential workers. So when COVID happened, majority of our tenants were still working, still getting their paycheck. There's retirees that have benefits that come in each month, Social Security, that's government funded. They're still getting their paychecks. And that's one of the main reasons why during COVID and the 2008 recession, the rental retention rates and rental receivables, mobile home park outperformed any other sector of real estate because our tenants are the backbone of this country. They are essential workers. They will always work and provide and put food on the table. We saw that was a great thing. That's why the popularity of mobile home parks and manufacturing communities has become so apparent because that opened up everyone's eyes and saw this as really a recession resistant asset, especially because we don't own the majority of us don't own the homes. The tenants do. So there's some very low maintenance. So maintaining that, we can keep low operation expenses for maintaining these communities. We're just maintaining utilities. We're a little overhead of schedule. Apologize. I'm outside now. This guy's got grass. You got to do what you got to do. We're right in the middle of moving around. Please like and subscribe. We're on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, getting video updates as well. We do these webinars weekly, every Tuesday and Thursday. So Thursday, we'll have a live question and answer session. So anyone that has questions and wants to learn more about myself or the opportunity we have with our current portfolio and what we're going to be doing in the future, jump in, ask your questions. You can always schedule a time with me to have a call through my email or on our website. You can also sign up for our newsletters. Finally, through the links provided below, you can speak to my AI. So you can speak to me, but an AI has everything, much knowledge as I have in it, and it will answer just like I would. A lot of moving pieces. We're excited. We're growing rapidly, and we're taking advantage of this market. That's this tidal wave that's coming to us. So again, thanks for joining me today. I'll be again on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be doing it every Tuesday and Thursday from now on. Speak soon.